Evening,
Hello,
everybody.
Dave.
Hello.
Turn up the sound a little bit here. My wife's actually not in a meeting for once.
Nothing like the dueling conference calls or Zoom calls going on in the same room or house.
Yeah,
A little tricky.
yeah. Sometimes I have to go up to the library, up to my library to do certain things, because there are days where my wife is in a meeting from like 9:30, 10 in the morning until 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So,
Yeah, that gets old.
yeah, she's like, oh, I wish I could go back to the office at least 2 or 3 times a week. And then 2 or 3 weeks ago, she got a letter from UGI saying, don't even think about coming back to work.
Not so fast, huh?
Yes, I did speak to Naomi this morning. So I kind of
Great.
I do have an overview of what's going on.
Okay, very good.
So yeah, we'll try to, as I explained, we'll try to move this along, since there's a lot here.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Bob, you got the updated agenda?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. Since earlier this morning, for Schaefer decided to back out and just ask for an extension. There we go. Now I can see everybody.
Could you please clarify who you said backed out and asked for an extension?
The Schaefer subdivision.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Interesting.
Um,
Did
So
did we
we had
receive
a-
any request, Naomi, a written request from Mrs. Schaefer?
So this plan has until the November meeting, so there wasn't an extension request
Oh,
needed,
yeah.
but we had a conversation with her yesterday where she requested to be taken off this month's agenda, and my understanding was she was gonna be reaching out to SSM about this.
Okay, well, that makes that item on the agenda easy. I'll say
Oh,
goodbye to everybody right here and now, and you guys have a nice meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call after, well, not after the meeting, but unless you want to call us around midnight.
Yeah.
But we can chat later this week if needed.
Yeah, I understand some of the dilemmas that were hanging in the fringes there for her, and I just asked one of the managers this morning if there had been any, or 2 o'clock this afternoon, if there had been any more conversation, and he said, no, she still wants you to attend the meeting. So if she said no, that's all I need. Very good.
All right.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks.
Okay, hello, everyone. Do we have everyone?
I see Bob, Lee, Bill, I think is on the phone. Jerome, Tim, and Naomi are here from the city.
And is someone here for the first plan?
Yes,
Okay,
that's a Reading Truck Group plan?
yeah,
Yes.
yes,
that would be
okay.
me.
Because I get some people mixed up, so. I read your name often today, but I get the names mixed up as to which engineer belongs to which project.
That's,
So in that case,
understandable.
we will call the September Planning Commission, City of Reading Planning Commission meeting to order. And first on our agenda would be the acceptance of the updated September 2021 Planning Commission agenda. Do I hear a motion to accept the agenda?
Bob Conklin to make a motion to accept the agenda as presented
Okay,
this afternoon as amended.
and is there a second? I'll second that. So, Alden Wayne. Okay, all those in favor of accepting the agenda, say aye.
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 Great, and sounds unanimous, the motion carries. We'll move into the subdivision and land developments, and the first one on the list today is 825 East Wyomissing Boulevard, the Reading Truck Group. A subdivision annexation plan to subdivide a parcel from Tom Misano Auto Group property and annex it to Reading Truck Group and reconfigure the driveways designed by Spot Stevens and McCoy. And do we have a presenter for that today?
Yes, that would be me. Do you want me to share my screen? Would you like to see the plan again?
It's you can run this segment any which way you want.
Okay, just, yeah, so here, just to refresh your memories quickly, is the overall plan showing the Reading Truck Group property and the Misano property. Zooming in, the annexation is just this little sliver in here that is going to be conveyed to Reading Truck Group, which will then be a precursor to their driveway ultimately being reconfigured in accordance with plans that we actually prepared for the city as a public works project. And so it's pretty straightforward. We are in receipt of a Hawk Valley Associates review letter dated September 20th, which has 5 items on it. The first item just notes what was received. The second says that draft deed description should be submitted to the city. We have done that. I think Naomi can confirm that she's received those.
We
And,
received those.
Of course, the second part of comment 2 is that the plan and the deeds need to be recorded, which they will be, but of course they can't be recorded until after you approve the plan. Comment 3 had to do with the required markers and monuments for the new portion of the property line. And as the planning commission had agreed at last month's meeting, and we show in note 7 on the cover sheet, let me get back to that. Okay. Note 7 states that the corners will be set after the driveway configuration is accomplished, because if they were done now, they'd get ripped out when they redo the driveway. So the agreement was that that would be a condition of the required driveway permit when that's lifted. And 4 and 5 are just saying that we need to fill out the certification of accuracy, which our surveyor will do, and then get the owner to sign these certifications of ownership. So I think basically we've got a clean plan in front of you. Unless you had any questions, I would just ask for approval of the plan.
Sure, found my mute button. David, do you have any comments on this?
No, I mean, I think all the issues have been adequately addressed as far as the planning and zoning comments referenced in the letter. Unless Jerome has anything to add, then I would just ask Tim if he has any final comments.
No, they resolved all the comments that have been presented in my review letter of September 20th.
Yeah, and as Mark mentioned, this is in conjunction with a public works project for the improvement of the whole intersection. Obviously we've got the Reading Housing Authority on the west side, and now this is on the east side, and things are coming together now. So this is just another step in the project. And I don't know, in case anybody wants to see, Mark or I could throw up the actual plan that shows, the driveways and the actual development of the driveways, that shows why we need to chip off that little sliver of property from the Misano group and convey it over to the Reading truck body. I'm perfectly satisfied with it, obviously, because I'm pretty intimately familiar with this project. But if anybody would like to see that, we can show that to you. And the placing of the monuments after construction on a site plan like this, that's standard operating procedure. So I'm fine with this plan. I have no further comments.
Okay, very good. Any comments from the other commissioners? Okay, hearing none, I will then ask for a motion to approve the preliminary final plan for the Reading Truck Group on the condition that that the plan is acceptable to the staff, just in case there might need to be some minor corrections to be made, perhaps minor typos or anything like that.
I move the approval of the 825 East Wyomissing Boulevard preliminary final plan, conditional upon the satisfaction of the conditions to the staff.
Very good. And do I hear a second?
Lee Olson seconds the motion.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Okay, and all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Okay, very good. Sounds like we are once again unanimous, and this moves us forward with this grand intersection and getting this fixed. And I'm just glad that Reading Truck Body, Masonic Truck Group, and of course the Reading Housing Authority have all contributed to helping out with this project that the city is trying to get accomplished.
Thank you very much, and I thank you for moving this to the top of the agenda, knowing that it was only going to take a few minutes, and I think we're all happy that it did, because you have a packed agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Moving on, so here's Dan here.
No, I don't believe he's on the call. He did submit a request for a time extension, and Naomi, do you have any additional information in terms of his response to the Hawk Valley Associates review letter that was issued on September 16th?
So for the Prince and Princess Daycare, he submitted updated plans in accordance with that letter. So those plans are from the September 23rd. And he submitted a time extension request until December 28th for the Prince and Princess plan. As for Supernatural Foods, there are a number of remaining items that need to be resolved. And so he's also submitted an extension request until December 28th.
So they're anticipating a request to have the commission table in both of those applications. Is that correct?
It sounds like that's the case. Yeah.
Well, if Dan suddenly does show up a little bit later, but there is quite a bit to do on both of these projects. So first, I'll ask for a motion to accept the time extension for 936 and 938 Penn Street, the Prince and Princess Daycare.
Bob Conklin, make a motion to allow the extension as requested for the Prince and Princess Daycare PC 2021-108 PF 936 and 938 Penn Street.
And do I hear a second?
Lee Olson seconds.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Okay. All right, and all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Very good. I just want to make a brief comment about 243 North 4th Street, the Supernatural Foods. As with the last time that this applicant has, as with the last time when this applicant went through this body, we had tremendous problems with them. So this week, they have removed the sidewalk on 4th Street. And it was completely gone when I drove over there this afternoon. Of course, they don't have permits to do this stuff because they can't have a permit because we haven't approved the plan yet. So I don't know what the best way to go about this is, but it might be something that the staff might want to consider reviewing.
One quick question on that, maybe this is probably best posed to Tim. Are you aware of any sidewalk excavation permits at that location at this point?
I am not. I just made a note of that. I'll
Okay.
check with Chris Lovell in our engineering office to see if he issued any. I think he knows we're working on this because we've discussed it a few times, and I don't think he would issue a permit without checking with me first on it. But I'll check with him. He's on vacation, won't be back until later this week, but I'll get back to you on
Very good.
that.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're
very
welcome.
much. Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to accept the time extension request for 243 North 4th Street?
This is Lee Olson. I will make a motion to accept the request for a time extension for 243 North 4th Street.
And just for the record, that extension is until December 28th of 2021. And do I hear a second?
Bob Conklin, I'll make it second.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Okay, all those in favor of the
Oh,
motion?
question, Chairman.
Oh, yes.
Don't forget discussion, but before we go to voting,
Oh,
I'm sorry, we went over earlier as to time extension request. Did we have a written extension request on this one?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
okay. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, hearing none, we are once again unanimous. We will continue to move on since it is a long agenda. Next on the agenda is 1325 and 1341 Scott Street, known as the Scott Street subdivision, designed by McCarthy Engineering Associates.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yes, so we are in receipt of the Hawk Valley Review Letter dated September 20th, 2021. I believe the biggest issue hanging out is the location of the units. Let me share my screen here. So in the Hawk Valley Review Letter, Jerome mentioned that we should move the units 7 feet back to provide for 2 off-street parking. At the previous meeting, we had discussed moving the units all the way back to be parallel with the other units, to be flush with the other units. We looked at doing that. We can't provide a driveway at less than 10% without providing a retaining wall. I believe it was also decided at the last meeting that the garage spaces would count as an off-street parking. So I believe we've provided 2 off-street parking spaces. Moving the unit 7 feet back is maybe feasible. We hadn't looked at that, but then we're not in line with either of the building lines of this building or the ones that sit further back. So I thought, we should talk about that issue before we get to any of the other stuff. We're of the opinion that we're currently complying with the ordinance, with the subdivision land development ordinance, with the current design, but I'd like to get the opinion of the planning commission.
There is a provision in the ordinance that does specify that the parking spaces, if they are back to back or in a parallel condition, they would not count. So the 2 parking spaces technically should be free to be backed up and have a point of ingress and egress. In this situation with the semi-detached homes, you're not going to be able to do that. No matter how we look at it, no matter if we move the buildings back 7 feet, there's still going to be stacked spaces. And if you leave them as is, there's going to be a parking space behind the garage. So it's a situation that I do not think could be overcome. David, do you have anything to say?
Are you referring to the provision in the zoning ordinance, Jerome?
Yes.
Okay. The as long as these are a one-family dwelling, that provision only applies. That provision has an exception for a one-family dwelling, and I'm just double checking here to make sure that it doesn't specify attached or detached. That said, here's the applicable language, and you can tell me if you're referring to another section as well, just in case there's multiple. Here it says, parking areas shall be designed so that a vehicle may proceed to and from it without requiring the movement of any other vehicle, except for parking for a one-family dwelling.
Yeah, that would be the section. And this is a one-family attached dwelling or semi-detached unit. So that section really would not apply. It's just a matter of logistics that, I mean, you do have the two parking spaces. You're going to have to back out of the driveway in order to enable the one in the garage to exit the building. So it does comply. It's just a matter of you can't put two off-street parking spaces in the driveway. That's for that much we know.
The one other item on that, without belaboring it further, is on the driveway space, excuse me, the garage space. And I noted this in the zoning letter, but I don't believe I saw a dimension for the interior of the garage that's specific to the parking area within the garage. And if I missed that, if you can point me to it, but it would just need to have the minimum depth of 18 feet. I assume that the width is, I mean, it appears on the plan to be greater than the 12-foot wide driveway, so that's going to meet the minimum 9-foot width. But the depth was the only additional item. I just mentioned I made a general reference in the zoning letter to making sure that there's adequate plan detail to establish that you comply with those requirements.
Understood. And David, I'd never received that letter.
Okay.
Could you do me a favor and copy me on that so I can take a look? My client had indicated that he had received it, but I was all in the dark a little bit.
Very good. Yep.
Appreciate it.
They do meet the 18 feet deep. They're 20 foot. Sorry, it's just Bob Billman.
Thank you.
Hey, Bob.
How you guys doing?
But we're happy to show that on the plan. Absolutely. So as far as the configuration, is the existing the way we're showing the configuration, is that acceptable to the planning commission?
This is Bob Conklin. I just want, Jerome and David, I just want to make sure I understand this. So if we have two cars, one in the garage and one in the driveway, and they're in tandem, that does not count as two spaces off-site?
It does.
It does count. So he's compliant with two spaces off-street.
Yes.
Thank you.
And no matter how you make the adjustment to make it 7 feet deeper as far as the driveway, you're still going to have the problem with the stacking.
Understood. Understood. They're still going to be in tandem.
So moving on, I believe we have two stormwater waivers that are still have not been acted on. I think there was some question about granting waivers of the stormwater ordinance. I spoke to Tim Kroll last week about that. I still haven't received any technical comments on the stormwater. design for the project. So we're hoping that that's, the city views that as ordinance compliant. If there are comments, we would like to see them and so we can address them. But we have waivers waiving the requirement of a 36-inch separation distance between the underground base bottom and the limiting zone, instead to offer 24 inches of separation, which is consistent with the DEP requirement. We're also asking to waive the requirement of reducing the 2-year 24-hour SCS storm, instead using the rational storm. That's mainly an issue of the SCS storm, the SCS style modeling being really very conservative for small drainage areas. And we think the rational modeling is more appropriate for a project of this size.
Yeah, I can respond to those two comments as far as the waivers go for the SCS and use of rational as opposed to the SCS. We have no problem with that. That's a pretty fairly common substitution, and I have no problem that being applied to this site here. As far as the limiting zone, yeah, it's a little trickier with that one. It does agree with DEP. The actual ordinance says it's actually a 48 inches between the bottom of the facility and the seasonal high water table or bedrock. Excuse me. So the wording in the ordinance implies that the waivers, the use of waivers is not appropriate, but it doesn't say it for this particular section. It's very confusing the way it's worded. So I think it's up to the municipality to sort of interpret what's going on here. The fact that it's dimensional and it's fairly arbitrary, and it doesn't reference any reason why it's 48 inches. I don't know where they came up with that. I'm going to make the call for this particular project that I don't have a problem with the 24 inches of separation between the bottom of the BMP and the top of the bedrock, for the reasons that we have a fairly detailed soil analysis, on-site soil analysis with probes and soil testing specific to this site, which indicates there's a fractured bedrock. It's not like a solid bedrock. And plus, there's no wells in the area. It's all public water. So for those reasons, I'm going to suggest that, and even encourage that we grant the waiver in both cases for the stormwater management waiver request.
And then I believe, and somebody
I have another related request, and Dave, maybe you can help me here. I don't remember seeing anything for planning modules. Did we talk about that yet? Sewer planning? Am I missing it?
Those were submitted to the city of Reading for review. I have not heard, the mailer card was submitted to the city for review. I've not heard anything of that. I've also not heard anything from the city arborist.
You submitted a mailer card to the city, not to the DEP?
Well, we sent for the city to fill out what section 4 for
an exemption? No, there's no
for an exemption.
Yeah, we don't do, there's no exemptions. City does not do exemptions. The DEP won't permit it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can just submit that straight over to the DEP to get the module package.
Okay. Okay. Understood.
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead. As long as we're talking public works, the rest of it is good. I mean, I'm fine with the rest of the public works end of things. Addressing, I think, is completed now. All the letters have been issued, and I think there was something else here that would oh yes, there will be at final plan. We will need an operation and maintenance, stormwater operation and maintenance plan agreement. That needs to be a separate agreement. Did you get the example that we send out to developers?
No, I did not.
Okay. We have one that was developed by our consultant earlier in the year that seems to be working pretty good. And so we'll need to see that. Plus, we were reminded of the section in ordinance that requires the city to collect a operation and maintenance inspection deposit fee for the next 10 years, as it is in a lot of the ordinances, similar ordinance. So that would also be required prior to plan approval. And of course, it will be then the developer's improvement agreement with the escrow, which would be separate from that inspection fee that I just talked about.
Got it.
So
Understood.
those items were, and I do have a letter I'm preparing. I didn't get a chance to issue it yet today, but you'll be receiving that with those comments on there.
Okay, great. I mean, I would like to ask for conditional approval. I understand there's still some issues hanging out here, but I think they're all, everything seems to be falling in line here.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, there was a comment in the zoning letter that I just wanted to make sure that the applicant's aware of, which is with respect to sidewalks. I know we addressed that last time you were in front of us, but I did put that in the letter, and just so that you're aware, that is a requirement under the zoning ordinance. And so if sidewalks are not being provided, then a variance would be required in addition to any waiver from the saldo.
Oh, okay, great. That's good information. I was, okay, great. My understanding, based on my conversations with my client, is we would not need a zoning variance, but that's understood. And we can, I know we were waiting on the determination at the last meeting, and I hadn't heard. So we will have to submit to the zoning hearing board, it sounds like. Okay, great.
And to answer your question about any type of approval, since you haven't made the submission of the sewer modules, we don't give any approvals until
Okay.
the sewer modules are at least made. This looks like a preliminary final, so
Correct.
we would only give you an approval for a preliminary plan if you submitted the sewer modules.
Understood.
You will now only get, since this is a preliminary final, you will only receive approval when the sewer modules come back and are approved.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And any other comments from the staff? Okay. Any comments from the commissioners? Doesn't seem like.
It looks like they're also asking for a time extension until December 28th.
Yes, Naomi does have that on the agenda, so I assume that written request has been submitted. And Naomi.
Yes, it has. Yes.
We should act
Mr.
on that.
Chairman, this is Will.
Go ahead, Will.
Should we consider the waivers now?
Yes, we should consider the waivers now so that they can update their plan and take
Right.
care of the stormwater narrative or whatever they need to complete for Tim.
Right, that's why I asked, yes. So I move to waive section 305A 2A.
Okay, and we have a motion from Will to for a waiver for the first section of the for the requirement of the minimum depth of 36 inches between the bottom of the infiltration BMPs and the limiting zones. Do I hear a second?
Lee Olson will second.
Okay, Lee will second. Okay. All those, any discussion? Okay.
If I think Timothy was saying that that should be 24 inches between, should we be adding that nomenclature in there, or are we good with just saying we're waiving that section?
Bob, I think your comment is appropriate. I think we should be specific since the ordinance is specific with that.
Yeah, that's why I didn't specify, because I noticed the discrepancy on the figures. So we should specify 24 inches.
That would be appropriate, yes.
Okay, then Mr. Chairman, I amend my motion to 24 inches.
Very good. And Lee, do you agree with the amendment?
Yes, I do.
Great. Okay. And well, with that, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? There we go. Well, we have the first waiver. The second waiver that they're asking for is a waiver from section 307, requirement of reducing the 2-year 24-hour flow of the existing conditions 1-year 24-hour flow using a SCS type 2 distribution. And of course, since I'm not an engineer, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but Tim does. So.
And as long as we're being specific, Wayne, we should also say substituting for rationale method.
Okay. And then we will add to that substituting for rationale method.
Right.
Okay.
This is Lee Olson. I will make that motion for the waiver request just as Tim edited it.
Very
I'll
good.
second.
And who seconded it?
Will.
Will? Great. Okay, any discussion on this one? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? No? Okay, very good. And you have your 2 waivers, Mr. Roberts.
All right. Thank you very much.
And now we need a motion to accept the request for a time extension until December 28th of 2021.
Bob Conklin, I motion to accept the time extension until 12/28/21.
And is there a second?
Lee Olson will second.
Okay, and Lee seconds. Okay. All those in favor of the motion for the time extension? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? No, and there we go. And finally, since we are waiting for sewer modules, we will need to table this plan. Is there a motion to table the plan?
Lee Olson motions to table the plan.
Okay. And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Will seconds. Okay. All those in favor of tabling the plan, say aye.
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 Okay. Opposed? Okay, very good. Thank you very much
Thank you, guys.
for your work on this, and I'm sure that working with Tim on the stormwater management practices and things, it'll all come together, and we can get this done by December.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Moving on, next on our agenda is 103 and 107 Angelica Street, the MJ Ryder Associates, designed by the Crossroads Group. Do we have someone presenting for this project?
Yes, that's me. I'm Brandon Bylick from the Crossroads Group. I guess I can share my screen. That might be easiest to give a quick overview of the plan. So MJ Ryder and Associates, they are proposing on the 107 property to do a small patio pergola area and kind of beautify the front of their building there. They received a grant from the 7th Ward, I believe it's called, to do those improvements. And then at the 103 property, they are proposing to add a building addition of roughly 465 square feet, and it's 2 stories, just to expand their testing facilities They're not looking to add any additional employees with this expansion. It's just they need the extra space to do their water quality testing. We did attend the zoning hearing board meeting back in May to get the appropriate zoning relief for the dimensional criteria and the parking requirements for the site. And we've received the review letter from Hawk Valley Associates and are working on addressing some of those comments. I'm sure there's going to be some discussion about those. So I don't know if we want to go through the review comments or what would be preferred.
This is Lee Olson. Were you going to put up a site plan to show us the particular elements of 103, 107?
Am I not sharing my screen right now?
I do not see it, sir.
Oh. One moment. Can you see that now?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was hovering over my screen explaining things, but so this is the 107 property here. Out front here is where they are proposing, it's the entrance to their office building. They're proposing to do a patio area with a little pergola overhang and add some landscaping in there to beautify the front of their building there. And now the 103 property is over on this side here, and they're proposing that addition at the rear of the property.
And are there, the parking spaces that are shown on the plan, are those existing or?
They are existing. There's no bumper blocks there right now or anything. This lot right here, they're proposing to pave. It's currently a stone lot. And the dimensions on there are just showing the parking requirements based on the ordinance for angled parking and straight parking space back here.
Mr. Bilek, if I may, this is Tim Kroll from Public Works. Could you explain why you're explaining those 3 spaces? There's a retaining wall there now. Will that exist? And will there be any grading associated with replacing the gravel with the pavement?
No, there's no grading proposed. That retaining wall is going to remain.
And you want to talk about the driveway entrance then too?
Yes, so there's currently there's curbing that extends. Here, let me zoom in a little bit here. There's existing curbing that extends up to this first driveway here at the 107 property. And currently they're kind of just driving over that curb to get into this parking area that they're using for parking at the 103 property. So we're proposing to curb cut that and basically have 2 driveways here because there's a lower, the 103 property is lower than the 107 property. And that'll allow access into these couple parking spaces here and this drive aisle that goes along the existing building at the 107 property to get back to these other spaces that they access from the alley that's back here.
Okay. Very good. Okay. David, do you have any comments on this plan?
I'll just provide a very briefly the background here that this did go to the zoning hearing board already with regard to the parking specifically. This is a site that was already deficient in terms of the total number of parking spaces. And that is a pre-existing condition that they came to us with. And the overall proposal, as already mentioned, was to make some site improvements and modifications that would still leave them deficient. And so the zoning hearing board did approve that with the condition that the parking, that off-site parking, that proof of off-site parking would be provided to the zoning office prior to ultimate zoning approval after all this. So I just wanted to share that so that you're aware that the parking capacity is one factor that has been taken into account here with the zoning.
Very good. Jerome, would you like to go over anything in your review letter?
Yes, my review was issued on September 15th. We've brought up comments on this subject a few times, and This is in regards to the common features of both properties. They more or less depend upon each other in terms of site accessibility, the driveways, the parking spaces, probably the stormwater management when we get to that, and other utility features. So the two parcels kind of depend upon each other, and we see as continuing in the future as a result of this plan. So therefore, there should be an annexation plan which combines 103 and 107 together. We had brought up previously when this was going through zoning compliance that by combining the two parcels, it would have minimized the number of variances that would be required. So I'd like to, I guess, ask the applicant if they had anything further on that.
As far as the annexation goes, I know MJ Ryder is not looking to annex the two lots together. They'd like to keep them separate. I don't know if anyone from MJ Ryder's on this call to discuss that some more. But that I know that was their desire to keep the two lots separate.
I don't see anyone from MJ Ryder on the call. I'm just checking the participant list right now. We did have a discussion with them during the zoning hearing, and I know, Brandon, you're part of that. And I mean, that was our understanding as well, that would not be their preference. They did express that they would if they had to, kind of thing, but I understand that's not their first choice to do it that way. So I mean, I do not see, in response to your question, anyone on.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I spoke with Megan earlier. She said she might be on to discuss that a little more, but I know it's their wish to keep the two lots separate at this time.
We will have to go back and look at from a zoning compliance. It looks like you would have to go back to the zoning hearing board possibly for a few issues.
Okay.
You would not need to go back to the zoning hearing board for them if it was annexed.
Okay, well, that's something I will bring up to them. What exactly, could you, what section of the ordinance is that?
For example, the off-street parking and site accessibility, you're going from 107, and then you're having the parking spaces on 103. And then the parking spaces that are located on 107 are also going to be provided for use for 103. So parking, you're more or less using shared spaces. Site accessibility, they're completely dependent upon 107, I believe, for ingress and egress now, as well as the other provisions that would deal with off-street parking and loading.
Okay, well, that's something I'm gonna have to discuss with MJ Ryder, because I know that was their wish to keep the two parcels separate. If it's something that they might have to go back to the zoning hearing board for, they may want to reconsider that.
If possible, maybe we could schedule a meeting to discuss it with your client directly.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful for sure.
Because I think if you go through a lot of these comments, some of them will go away if the annexation was incorporated as part of this design. Some of the other comments are rather simple to address, in which they've already made steps to accomplish, which would be the landscaping plan, the lighting plan, the solid waste management plan. We've also provided comments with, as I mentioned, about the site accessibility and the zoning relief that they've already received, and the number of off-street parking spaces. With the number of off-street parking spaces and the zoning hearing board's decision, there's going to be off-site parking spaces that are going to be provided on another property.
Correct. So it's not this lot shown on the plan here, but MJ Ryder has an agreement with Bimbo Bakery, which is to the right of this plan here. They have a parking lot about a block away from the site where they're providing 20 off-street parking spaces, and they have a lease agreement with Bimbo for those spaces.
And so the lease agreement is going to be provided.
Yeah, I believe the written agreement was for the
Okay.
zoning hearing board.
That's something we need to talk to you further about as well.
Okay.
The sewer and water facilities, again, this is if it was a common issue then would be, I believe, one connection, but it's two connections now. Tim, are they going to be required to do planning modules for both?
Well, Mr. Mueller, you want to describe exactly what this proposed improvement would do as far as number of employees or any increases in demand for water and sewer?
As
And-
far as employees, there's not going to be any additional employees. To my understanding, it's just a kind of a storage area for testing equipment.
That's
So
the
I don't-
proposed new building in the back? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Yeah,
the
okay.
proposed building in the back here.
And-
So there wouldn't be any increase in water demand or any sewer service going to that addition.
As a
far
result
as I
of this,
know.
okay.
Yeah.
And there are existing, I assume you have existing water and sewer connections?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes, to both buildings.
If that's the case, then I don't think we have a need for any sewer modules.
From stormwater management, Tim, again, they're going to be doing the improvement, which is the proposed building addition, as well as modifications to the parking area and also the driveway access point. So it appears that they're going to have to do stormwater management for this project.
Well, let me respond by asking a question to the engineer.
Sure.
Are you proposing any stormwater management features for the site? I see you have a stormwater management.
At this time, no,
plan.
because the site actually balances. We're only adding a very marginal amount of impervious area because most of the site is actually paved or considered impervious area right now, because this lot is currently stone. So it's really just improving that lot and turning that into pavement.
Okay, and you have a stormwater management plan attached to the site?
Yeah, there is I believe it's a drainage shed plan.
Mhm.
I believe there was some calculations with that, just showing the increase for the site. It was kind of negligent. It was a
Right.
very small increase because there's only a little bit of additional impervious for the patio area that's being added to the site.
And I'll be honest, I just recently looked at this, so I'm pretty new at it, but I don't like taking stabs at it when it's fairly fresh here and I haven't had a chance to dive into it, but I'll give you my first impression. Anyway, the parking that you're doing out there on the lower lot with the 3 spaces, it's an existing parking lot. You said there's no proposed grading. You're basically going to take that gravel parking area and you're going to repave it. So it is a parking area. It will become a parking area with no other improvement as far as grading. Am I correct in that?
Yeah,
summary?
that's correct.
Yeah, if that's the case, then what you're doing is simply maintaining an existing parking area. That is not considered new impervious. If you were putting a building there, then it would be new impervious. Or if you were taking a building down to put the parking, then it would be new impervious. But if you're just maintaining it, it would not be considered in the calculation of square footage of a new impervious. Now, the interesting part is in the rear of the lower property there. You are proposing a new addition. However, it's only a few hundred square feet.
Yeah, so it's over top of the existing macadam. as well.
Right, it's over top of the existing macadam. So definitely this would, this overall plan would fall into place with an exception for stormwater rate control, which is what you're describing, pre to post. But for water quality, groundwater, and stream bank protection, those are the other 3 items. It could still be considered a regulated activity. However, it's such a small area. It's under 800 square feet. There is no defined de minimis area in the ordinance. However, it's been the tradition of this commission to consider something of that small nature to be de minimis. And 400 and something square feet is pretty small. And I'm not seeing any other new impervious areas being proposed. I need to take another look at this and get the feedback from the commission, but I'm almost willing to entertain that this probably is not a regulated activity on this that's being presented on this plan for stormwater management. I do have questions on the parking arrangement though, but I don't want to deviate from the stormwater discussion.
that would be it for stormwater. So do you want to go back to what your concern was with the off-street parking? Go ahead.
Yeah, the off-street parking shows 3 spaces there again in that area that you're going to pave. And it's an interesting arrangement. I'm all for getting off-street parking. You're going to be stacking these, so I assume these are going to be, and I don't want to step on the toes of planning and zoning, which deal more or less with the parking on site. But I think where you're stacking them, we need to discuss how that's going to work, because obviously the two spaces that are to the rear are going to be blocked by the one out front. So you're going to have to make some arrangements. They're going to have to be a friendly relationship there, I guess, with employees. But from an engineering, from the public works standpoint, the question I have is the one on the end, the one closest to the driveway entrance. If you put a vehicle there, a normal vehicle, would it fit in that space, or would it hang out over the edge? Is there a full 18, 20 feet there to get a car in there? Can you do it without hanging it over the edge and into?
I mean, these are 9x18 spaces. I believe there's 12 feet here from the edge of the spaces. I don't see a dimension there, but so I mean,
12
it is tight.
12
I
feet
mean,
from.
from
okay.
the edge of the parking spaces here to the what would be the retaining wall.
Oh, well, you'd have to measure it from the other side. You'd have to measure it from the closest edge. That would be the farthest edge. Yeah, the one up further would be the closest edge.
You may be able to slide it just a couple feet to.
Maybe. That's true too. Yeah, would that be east or something? Yeah, that's true.
So if you can do that, I think you may have it forward.
I think you can do it. I do think you can do it.
I mean, currently they do stack about 3 cars in there. I mean, it is a little tight, but I mean, that's how they currently are using it as well.
Right. Yeah, I guess I just want to make sure that you can configure that on the property and you can actually fit 3 vehicles on there. And then I'll let Dave and Jerome and Naomi talk about, the stacking. You're already doing that sort of thing. Usually we'd like to hear how that's going to work, because this would not be open for the public. This would be for employees, I assume.
Yeah, only employees. And
where do visitors park?
So there is an existing parking spot out front that's designated for like 15-minute parking to unload. If customers would stop by to drop off samples or something, there's a spot out front of the building that's intended.
Okay. Okay.
One thing I did miss was about in regards to site accessibility. The parking spaces in the rear will be dependent upon the off-street, or sorry, the alley, and they use that now in the current condition. So we do not see a problem with that. And with the proposed building, it does not look like it's going to interfere with that area. That appears to be the majority of the comments that we have. At this time, the curbs and sidewalks, of course, would have to also be evaluated by Public Works, but those are in relatively fair condition at this point.
Okay. Excuse me. Had a coughing fit. Any other comments from the staff? Hearing none. Any comments from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, this is Will.
Go ahead, Will.
Thank you. Just to clarify things, the consolidation or annexation request would have to come from the owner, who is the applicant, not the tenant here, which is Barbara Coyle. MJ Ryder is the tenant. So this plan is, she's the applicant for the plan, but she would also have to be for the consolidation or annexation. So I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, that would be correct, because Barbara Coyle does own the lots. That's correct.
Right. And then I know we have this is more, I guess, a question for the zoning administrator. I know we have a minimal requirement for for an automobile parking space for the length, but if the space were large enough only for, say, a motorcycle, would that be considered an off-street space or no?
It doesn't distinguish in the ordinance. I mean, it does allow for compact spaces in larger surface parking lots and garages, but not, no. Does
Yes,
not
and of
account
course,
for it.
I'm thinking it probably hasn't been updated for, I know it has not, for, there are compact cars now that are even more compact than before, so.
Right, true.
So that's something else there, but we'll see if the engineer can devise a plan to squeeze them all in. Then I just had a question for Public Works, only because it was brought up about the driveway being gravel. I'm just curious, for a gravel surface to be considered impervious, is there some density consideration? Like, does it matter how deep the gravel is, the size of the stones? I mean, it's just a thin layer of gravel enough to make it impervious, or is there some point at which it becomes a matter of degree, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, the general consensus among engineers and regulators is that if it is gravel, it is just strictly gravel, unengineered for any type of stormwater management infiltration, just strictly gravel on dirt. You automatically assume that it's impervious.
Right.
It would not have a grade as severe as asphalt or concrete, but it would still be labeled impervious, even though obviously maybe some portions of it may be more porous than others, but the industry standard is to call that impervious.
That's what I figured. I just wanted clarity, but as you said here, there's not going to be a change in the pervious, the impervious cover, but I was just I didn't think it would make a difference in this case, but I was curious about it just for general reference, but thank you.
Right. You're welcome.
I just have a quick question for Jerome. Are there handicap spaces required for
That
this?
that was one of my comments, Wayne, and they would either have to provide the handicap parking spaces to meet code requirements on their property or adjacent to their property. On their property would be code compliant, off their property would be non-code compliant. So of the 7 spaces that they have, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, they would probably have to have 2 or 3 handicap parking spaces.
Under the zoning ordinance, it would only be 1, but I can't speak to the any additional requirements that might be imposed under the building accessibility codes.
We would have to check that, Wayne, on the number, but they would have to have it on the property, and it would have to be accessible to the buildings that would be served by for that handicapped person.
Right. And be van accessible. If it's just 1 space, it would have to be a van accessible space.
So they could probably do that with they could probably do it with one of the 4 spaces in the rear.
Very good, very good. Any other comments from the commissioners? Okay, hearing none. I really appreciate the discussion here. We have a request on this plan also for a time extension until December 28th of 2021. I just want to confirm with Naomi that we have that in writing.
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. And okay, so do I hear a motion to accept the time extension until December 28th of 2021?
This is Will. I move to grant the request for the time extension until December 28th.
And is there a second?
Bob Conklin, I'll second.
Okay. Okay. Any discussion? All right. And All those in favor of the time extension, say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Very good. We're once again unanimous. And since there is quite a bit of stuff to work out on this plan, we have a recommendation from staff to table the plan. Do I hear a motion to table the plan?
Conklin, I'll put a motion to table the plan for PC 2021 112 PF 103 and 107 Angelica Street.
Great. And do
I
we have-
second.
Excuse me?
I second.
Okay, Will seconds. Very good. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of tabling the plan, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And there we go. Great. Well, thank you. Going to butcher his name, Mr.
Brandon.
Fiala.
Brandon Bialik.
Brandon, thank you very much for your presentation, and we look forward to the next one where some of these questions about the parking will be answered in a few of the zoning issues.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have somebody returning. Might not be the same people, but this site was before us about 10 years ago for a building. So this is 410 South 14th Street, the Fairview Christian School. And do we have a presenter for this?
Yes, my name is Ryan Huber.
Okay. Hello, Ryan. The floor is yours. If you could give us a little bit of background as to what the Fairview Christian School would like to do with these 4 lots.
Yeah, so I'm not able to share my screen yet because it says the other participant has not stopped sharing yet. But we submitted a site plan for improving some existing parking lots that we have. The one is, we call it behind the gymnasium off of South 13th Street. There's some garages there that we currently own that we would like to knock over and put in a lot of off-street parking. And then also up on 14th and Muhlenberg, there's a corner lot now that we stack some cars in, and we want to improve that and put more parking in there. It does require, for that one, moving a retaining wall back, putting some depressed curbing in. Here now, I think I can share it. Get that up here. Oh, I have a permissions issue. Oh, it's making me quit and reopen my Zoom. Should I do that, or is somebody else able to share the site plan?
I think I can.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, so we're looking at C2 now. This is the improved plan. Do you want me to zoom out and go up to the existing?
This, whatever you prefer. Yeah, this has, yeah, there we go. This is a good view here. So that's the existing features plan. It shows there on your bottom left of the screen, the garages that are there now, and the parking lot adjacent to that, right beside the gymnasium. And then up in your right-hand corner is the parking lot there that we now access just off. Yeah, there's a little access to it, and we kind of stack cars in there Yeah, it's not been ideal. So it's proposing removing some existing curb and replacing it with depressed concrete curb so that we can pull straight into those parking spots. I figure that corner lot could gain us about 9 spots. And then we're also proposing if we could, I mean, I guess I'm assuming that since it's depressed curb, pulling it over, that would take away the off-street parking, which we could use that area with no cars on it to improve our bus loading and unloading zone. Right now, we have the area right in front of the building that's painted for loading and unloading. So it'd be very helpful to have more room than that. That's kind of a 5-way intersection there, which that gets very clogged, especially at school dismissal time. There's a lot of buses coming down 14th Street, coming up Muhlenberg, and it'd be nice to have more space for the buses to pull up along the curb without completely blocking the street, which is the case now. That's very difficult to get through there. So that would be an additional benefit to removing the existing curb there and not having cars parked on the street. And then out back there off of South 13th Street, that is a total of 29 parking spaces. There's 8 parallel parking and I believe, about 21 pull-in parking spots there. So that's all existing parking lot now. And so I'd be open to any questions you have.
Was having trouble finding the mute button today. Let's, as usual, let's start with Dave, with David to see if he has any zoning concerns.
No, I mean, it appears that the proposal would increase the total number of off-street parking spaces, and that's, in a case like this, there's no change of use that's involved. That's kind of our primary concern is what impact would something like this have on off-street parking. So at first glance, that's really, one of our main issues. We have not received a zoning permit application, and that will be required.
Very good. Jerome, would you like to go over your review letter?
Yes, my review was issued on September 24th. It looks a little bit more extensive than it needs to be, but this is a sketch plan, and these comments are meant for informal comments to provide the applicant with guidance and direction.
Mm-hmm.
If we skip down to comment 3, you can see that there are 5 lots that are part of this project, and this comes into a later project. And as we discussed in the previous project, they're all contingent upon each other pretty much. Maybe a couple of them are not, but for the most part, they all need each other to be coordinated, and especially for the off-street parking and the site accessibility to the project. We may note that it is located in the R3 district. The use is permitted within the R3 district. So we do not see any zoning compliance requirements with the use. Going over to the next page on comment 5, we did provide the dimensional requirements that are specified for the R3 zoning district. And it appears that some of these do not meet, and however, the buildings and some of the off-street parking areas are considered nonconformities. So therefore, they'll be able to continue under the provisions for nonconformities of the ordinance. Moving forward, we had asked that once this project is considered, that the 5 parcels or 5 contiguous parcels of land be joined in common deed as part of an annexation plan. We had provided some comments for direction for off-street parking. This is a little bit of a reconfiguration. Site accessibility will be improved. The parking will be improved. And we feel that would be an asset to this project. There will be requirements in order to satisfy the provisions for landscaping and lighting, as well as solid waste management. One question we did have was, it's not shown on the plan, is will there be any increase with the student population?
No, this is to just serve the current that we have.
So Tim, that would go to the question I would have had on stormwater management or sanitary sewer and water
Sanitary,
supply.
right. Mhm.
Okay,
Right.
so
Yeah, I was going to ask that if you didn't.
and then while you got Tim there, then for stormwater management, most of the area is already impervious already. I think it's all paved or covered with buildings. Is that a correct assessment?
Well, yeah, I guess the question I would ask, Ryan, is there anything you're doing in this parking area on the north corner of the site, the northeast corner of the site, or any part of this improvement going to eliminate any existing buildings? I think you're tearing down a few fences or retaining walls.
So there is a building, if you go to the existing features one, like you can kind of see that hash line, that is an existing garage. There is no spouting on that, you know, we're not increasing any impervious. It is either paved stone or the water from those garages does just run off into the existing lot. So in that respect, we're not increasing the impervious area on any portion of the project.
Yeah, what do you use the garage for now?
They rent some of them out.
For parking?
No, just for, yeah, as a other people rent them to store their cars and is not used
So
for,
they park cars in there. So
right.
I guess what I'm trying to do is find out is if are you creating any new impervious area? You're removing the building to create parking spaces,
To create
which are
more parking spaces,
which is
yes.
but they're already parking spaces. So
Correct.
again, I'm trying to determine if we have a new impervious area. It's an impervious area. Is it new impervious area? And it's debatable, but it probably is not because you're already parking cars, and that's what you're going to do again is park cars there.
Correct.
And then as far as the area, the gravel area to the northeast, that is an area that's used right now as well. It's a gravel paved area, which, by the way, does not comply with zoning. You're not allowed to have gravel that's not stabilized. So the fact that you're going to pave that, and I guess that is what is proposed. You're going to be paving it.
Yes. Yep.
Yes,
That is
so
proposed to be
So
saved.
that's definitely a recommended improvement.
Mhm.
And since it's already a paved area and you're going to make it a paved area, what you're doing is maintaining it, similar to the last land development plan we looked at. So
Yeah.
I'm
What
not
makes,
seeing it. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, what makes that feature really usable is removing the curbing. So yeah, the paved existing gravel, we have that there in that box there, but to
Mhm.
access all that for the maximum amount of spaces, we're removing curbing, which is removing street parking, putting a depressed curb in so we can pull in over it.
So are you saying you're going to remove, how much will you be removing?
Yep, so it has that first V drawn out to remove existing curb 32. I guess that means linear feet.
Mhm.
And then there's a spot where there is some gas vent pipes that we're not going to be removing curbing, then removing another 9 feet of curbing. And that's so that we can access and pull straight into that newly paved parking area. Now we access it all from the south end there and kind of pull down in and
Right.
stack vehicles in that they're very parked in.
Yeah, it makes it difficult.
Yeah, so if we,
There was probably a reason why they did that. And that was to get the driveway entrance a minimum distance from the corner, from the intersection,
okay.
which is what you're defeating right now by
Mhm.
widening the apron, the driveway apron, the entrance to the north. That's going to get you probably too close. So your engineer should check that against the zoning ordinance for the driveway entrance with respect to the intersection.
Yeah, that is definitely a conflict.
Okay.
it's a good idea, but you got that zoning ordinance to overcome.
Sure.
We understand what you're trying to do.
Right. And is that something that you're allowed to ask for a variance for, or that's not going to happen?
Well,
Well,
you may
then
be,
you-
you may be able to do the design, depending upon the length. I think, Dave, is it 40 feet?
Yeah, it's 40 feet for a residential driveway for a non, hold on, let me read the exact provision here.
Yeah.
Driveways in residential districts and or residential uses, yeah, shall not be less than 40 feet from any street intersection. And that's based on the intersection of the respective curb lines.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other problem, Ryan, is safety. You're going to have cars backing out into and too close to an intersection. And unfortunately, none of us on staff are traffic engineers, but we've got a lot of experience. In fact, we're kind of wondering if Mr. Copenhaver is a traffic engineer also from other plans that we've seen. I know he uses traffic engineers, and I think in this case, we would want to see if you're adamant about doing that and going for a variance, if that would be a safety concern. Right now, I'm thinking, yeah, I think that would be a safety concern to grant a variance on the proximity of the driveway entrance to this intersection.
Right.
And just for the planning commissions, so that they're aware, there is no specific design or layout for the parking in this stretch. As of yet.
Right. With it being depressed curb, they would just simply be pulled straight in. If we aren't able to pull straight in like that, in a sense, it's hardly worth improving the corner at all, because we wouldn't be gaining any parking spaces. But I know what you're saying. Yeah, that is a safety concern to be backing out onto 14th Street. The other aspect of it was letting that be bus loading zone, which, that keeps that curb open because there is no curb there, but maybe that's a different discussion completely.
You mean stripe it to be, or designate that as a bus loading zone?
Correct. Yeah, we have one now right in front of the school. And it's not big enough. It fits one school bus, and come dismissal time, there's 5 school buses. And to have that whole, well, there's more than that. The city, all kinds of different buses come in from different areas, and to have that whole section be designated for unload, a loading zone would get a lot of buses off the street, because now it shuts the street down. You can't really hardly drive through because of all
How
the
do you
buses.
mean it shuts it down? Describe what's going on.
Because the buses come down, come up Muhlenberg, come down 14th, and they block the road there.
So they double park is what you're saying?
Yeah, they have to. Yeah, because
cars are parked along the curb?
Cars are parked there because it's a legal
good.
curb to park. Until they can pull into the one loading zone in front of the school, they're parked on the street. And that's just a daily occurrence, which if we thought, well, if we take away that curb there, basically from the school the whole way to Muhlenberg, that's all that much more room for the buses to pull up alongside of and not be blocking the street.
Serving two purposes.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could go along with that area, but I think we definitely need to talk about the bus arrangement. That needs to be investigated, because we don't want school buses and children ingressing and egressing from the drive lane of 14th Street.
They don't let them load until that bus pulls up into the bus loading area. And so it just creates a backlog, because we have one spot where that's designated for bus loading. Until they pull up there, then the children get on that bus, and the next bus pulls in. So the staging area is on the street.
Right, with the doors closed.
With the doors closed, correct.
Yeah, okay. I get you. Yeah, that is something that, we should definitely discuss your idea of extending that bus loading area. That's something that you can definitely apply for or put it on this plan. But that's something that we should be discussing to make that, more safe. Is there a parent pickup and drop off area as well?
They have to wait until the buses leave. So they have to wait till like 3:05 or 3:10.
Okay.
They're not allowed to pull up until all the buses are gone.
Well, it's good you have that plan.
They kind of stage that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good. Are there any, well, we did go over the, did talk a little bit about stormwater management. We talked about the idea about extending the bus loading zone, which I think will be two positive things for this plan. Are there any comments by the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, this is Will.
Go ahead, Will.
I just have a couple of things. Yeah, I would just, this is only the sketch plan, which we appreciate. So if we could, find out how many spaces there are currently there in that northeast corner for parallel parking for automobiles, so we would know what we would be sacrificing. But of course, in my opinion, I think it would be well worth it to sacrifice those to alleviate this congestion that's occurring, I presume, twice a day, every school day. So
yeah, there's about three spots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's about 3 spots on the parallel parking.
That's
curb
what I was
spots.
thinking about,
Yep.
right? And so it might be, even though we're mindful of parking and we're in the city is undergoing a parking study, and it just in some instances we might have to give that up for the sake of the flow of the traffic and all that. Think of the environmental concerns, all the bus diesel fumes or whatever being exhausted and so forth. Just one little note, Mr. Chairman, both C1 and C2, there's an elevation I think is erroneous. I don't know if it's in the datum or in the southwest corner where the existing garages are. There are 2 elevations given at the level of the door sill. The northernmost one, it's 396.04. I suspect that's 296. In line with all the other elevations. So if we could have that clarified for next time.
Okay.
Great. Any other comments from the commissioners? Nope. Guess not. Okay. Well, this is a sketch plan, and as always, we really appreciate Mr. Huber coming in and presenting this to us to let us have a look at it. The only comment I would say is that I think staff will be very happy to work with this intersection here at Muhlenberg and 14th Street and try to work out some of the problems with that intersection.
Sure.
Okay. This being a sketch plan, we don't have any action to take. Are there any final comments? Okay, hearing none. Thanks again, Mr. Huber.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure working with the school last time, and I'm sure it will be again this time.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next on our list here, we have 323 St. Bernardine Street, the Alvernia University Crime Scene Lab. And I would suspect Aristides is here for this one.
Yeah, good evening. It's Aristides with Stackhouse Bensinger. I'm not sure if the rest of my project team is on quite yet. I think we were originally slated for 8:25 and then potentially moved up to 8 o'clock, but I'm able to walk through our project as we hopefully get the remainder of our team on board. So thank you for your time tonight. We submitted a sketch plan for Alvernia University. They own 323 St. Bernardine Street, which is immediately adjacent to their alumni house. It is an existing single-family home that was part of the greater neighborhood, of which only a few homes are still remaining. The lot in question is about 0.2 acres plus or minus. And the university is looking at using this residence for a crime scene investigation lab, in which, they would, I assume, set up scenarios that students come in and investigate, look for evidence or clues or what have you. There is literally nothing proposed. With changes to the structure itself, it will remain as if it looked as a home. The only change that is proposed is a removal and replacement of existing ADA ramp to comply with current codes. And probably some, general house upkeep like replacing dilapidated flooring, tiles, and or paint. As mentioned, we did submit a sketch plan for this to discuss this with the Planning Commission. Along with that submission, we also requested a waiver of land development, as nothing is really proposed to change on the site or within the building itself. We did receive a comment letter from Hawk Valley Associates dated the 23rd of this month. And we can certainly go through some of these comments or all of these comments as you wish. Subsequent to that letter, I did reach out to Mr. Paris to review some of the comments regarding the zoning, and we got a little direction there. I figured tonight we could probably go through some of those as well. So if you have any particular questions before we get into looking through the comments and discussing some of these, let me know.
I think I'll let David go ahead and help us navigate through the zoning issues. And I'm sure that the recipes you have your you'll be able to either ask questions or answer any questions that David might have.
Yep,
Yeah, thank you. So as far as the zoning at this location, this is part of an institutional overlay, which does allow for a college and university use. The areas that we did flag and we discussed to some extent were the requirements for off-street parking. As you've all become familiar this evening with the concept of stacking, there at this location, since it is obviously set up as a single family dwelling right now, the only parking that's provided is via a driveway, which would require stacking of vehicles. So that does not meet the off-street parking requirement for the use at this time. I understand that the university is looking at some alternative options there, but that was one of the things that we pointed out in the zoning review. The other item was the lack of sidewalks. Again, the sidewalks are required under the zoning ordinance. And so a variance from sidewalks would be required if they are not installed. The other zoning item that we spoke of, let's see here. Well, the other item was really the implications that would have for the potential request for the land development waiver. And when speaking with Jerome and Hawk Valley Associates, we identified some potential options there. I'll let Jerome speak to the how that all plays out, but we did find that this was part of an original subdivision for the within the Millmont area, and that the revision option as an alternative to a full-on waiver versus minor land development may be an option. But I think Jerome can explain that option and any other comments from his review.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's addressed in comment 4. It is a revised plan of record that we've found, and as per the subdivision land development ordinance amendments that were passed last year, or earlier this year, I'm sorry. would require that a minor land development plan would be submitted. We've considered that in the past, when this was dealing with Albright, as a plan that would then just be modified and then recorded or approved and recorded, just for clarity that it is replacing the existing plan of record. So if the use is permitted, which it is in the institutional district, overlay district, it can proceed. One other thing that like mentioned to David was it is a non-conforming building with respects to the setback requirement for the side yard setback. So I do not think that there's going to be any zoning relief required for it.
Correct. Yeah, we would recognize that it is as an existing nonconformity with respect to the setback.
So what that does, Aristus, is if you do look to expand the use in the future, that may be more of a problem than. So
Certainly, yeah.
We just wanted to point that out for now. Certainly, David brought out all the comments with respects to the off-street parking, in which we're going to have to determine on how we're going to resolve any conflicts. Do you have anything to add to the presentation or to offer as a presentation with respects to the need for off-street parking and how will students get to the site?
Sure. And this is where I was hoping for Mr. Border from the university to hopefully chime in. I'm not sure if he made it on the phone call yet or the Zoom meeting.
I'm here.
But I will point out that the driveway, while it does, as Mr. Paris indicated, allow for 2 cars to fit, as I've heard earlier, and as Mr. Paris and I discussed yesterday, the stacking is not permitted. I would point out that as part of the residential development, there is available on-street parking directly in front of this particular property. If that's something that would need to be signed as restricted to university parking, I wonder if that would absolve us of having to indicate how they will be shuttled to and from their class and eliminate the need for that parking.
Just speaking to the zoning requirement specifically, any requirement for off-street parking is off of the street, would not include any kind of on-street parking, even if signs are approved through the Public Works Department. That may or may not be in order, but it would not take away the requirement for the off-street parking. That would still need to go through a variance or be provided on the actual parcel.
Correct. And as a 0.2 acre or 8,800 square foot property, I'm not looking to add impervious coverage. I don't know that I would actually have the room to do it. And I certainly don't want to detract from, or we don't want to detract from the residential neighbors to the left if you're looking from the street side. So Mr. Border, I don't know if you have any additional information as to the transportation to and from this particular class. But from what I understand, regardless, we would need to apply for a variance request on off-street parking.
Yes. As far as I understand, what the plans are from our provost is to not have students drive to this particular house. They would be shuttling or walking. It is within a block of our main campus. So we would make provisions to shuttle them or again, to have them walk down to this lab.
While you're asking for the variance request for the parking, you might as well ask for the loading space requirement.
Well, actually, I'm looking at the off-street loading space requirement in 600-1604, and we fall below the 4,000 square foot non-residential building floor area, so therefore no loading space is required.
Okay.
So I don't think we need a variance from that. Mr. Paris, if you can confer.
Yeah, and I think we spoke about that briefly in our conversation the other day. I mean, that's correct. It's up to 4,000 square feet of building is the loading space is not required.
Yes,
That
just like
said,
before.
if there's a shuttle involved, we would need to look at how that would be utilized, where the shuttle drop off would take place and all of that.
Okay. So that's the parking. Obviously, we'll need to, no matter what, go through a variance request in the zoning hearing board for that particular piece to be acted upon, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. With regard, Mr. Skrimkowski, I don't know if you had additional comments you wanted to highlight or go through. I certainly do.
Oh, go ahead.
With the sidewalks, I know Mr. Border indicated that there's potential for students to be walking. This neighborhood did not have, or does not have, sidewalks. It never did. With the Plex, we did have some pedestrian connectivity across St. Bernardine Street to the main campus proper. But that's well over 1,500 linear feet away from this particular property. Also not looking to add, again, impervious coverage to the site to minimize our impacts. So Mr. Border, I think maybe that's something we can talk to the university about, and maybe they only have shuttle service to this particular use.
Yes, it's definitely something we could do. Have a shuttle only. Again, we do have the shuttle services running, from campus to 401 Penn Street. So it could just be one extra stop on the way.
Okay. And the next comment is regarding the hours of the crime scene lab will be in use. And I'm not sure how much you know about class schedules and, the actual use of the home. If you have any information you might be able to provide. I know it's not a 24 hours a day. Nobody's living there. There are no offices. It will strictly be set up and class will come in and do their class and then leave. But
Correct. So from what I understand, obviously it's not approved, so we couldn't really make any plans to use it. So they really haven't thought out that kind of schedule. But if everything was to go through and we do use it, we're looking at using it as a lab. So it wouldn't be a classroom. So from what I understand, we might have 12 to 15 students at a time that would be using it. And I think they're looking at once a week, probably for the length of a lab or a class, maybe 2 hours. And I believe that's it. About 10 to 12, about 2 hours. Oh, and we certainly wouldn't be outside the hours of, say, 8 to 4, or maybe even 8 to 5. I mean, it wouldn't be a lab used, at night.
So daylight hours, okay.
Correct.
So that kind of ties into the comment further down, but specifically 9 and 10, the home is served currently by water and sewer, which would have a single EDU based on the intensity that the university is proposing to use it. We would certainly fall below a single EDU. We're not, there's no laundry going to be generated, no dishwashing, no showering. I'd imagine perhaps the commode and maybe a sink might be used for students that were late, had to use the bathroom, something like that, but certainly well under the usage you would normally see with a single family residence.
Aristides, would there be any food preparation proposed for this building? I'm not talking about just the students there. Would it be more on a larger scale for the rest of the campus? I'm just asking just to see what the proposed water usage would be.
I'm going to say no, but I'll let Mr. Border certainly weigh in on that.
No food preparation whatsoever.
Yeah, and then my other question, would anybody be living in this? Would it be strictly for classrooms?
Strictly lab only, nobody living there, no offices. Again, just the usage that once a week, maybe in once a month.
Okay,
Maybe once at the end of the semester for further, when the class is at the end. Again, we're not 100% sure because we have to have it first, plan for it.
okay. I tend to agree with Aristides. I was just checking to see if there was any other uses that might tip it over a 1 EDU flow for sewage. So it sounds like, and it sounds like it makes sense that you're going to be under 1 EDU.
Yeah.
Aristides, I think what would help with this is, I understand it's a sketch plan, but it has the existing noted on there. And if you could let us know which rooms are going to be classrooms, if the kitchen's going to be used for any reason at all. I mean, I think that would help Timothy understand where you're proposing to use this.
Sure. So
That's a good
again,
comment.
Mr. Porter could probably chime in a little more, but this home will be used as is. In other words, if it was a kitchen now, it will remain as a kitchen, aesthetic. Bedrooms, living rooms, all of those. There's nothing changing as far as rooms or how they're used, I guess.
The use would change though. I think Bob is correct. You would want to say that you're not going to use it for a bedroom or somebody would be living there. So if you're going to convert the
Correct.
bedroom into a classroom, I think that comment is it would help me to understand the future use and the use of the building.
So, yes, I guess the whole house would be used as a classroom, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah,
if they're
that would be
if they're
good to designate that.
if they're investigating a crime scene for clues or evidence, hey, something happened in the bedroom, and they'll go to the bedroom
Okay.
to investigate, or hey, there was a bloody kitchen knife. So I don't know how I could classify each room as each room as a classroom when in fact it's really the whole house itself is the classroom.
So this is going to be used as a mock crime scene, not as a lab where chemicals or looking in a microscope at hairs and things like that.
I believe so. Mr. Border, do you have any additional information on that?
Yes, correct. When we say, I shouldn't say, we call it a lab, but really it is a crime scene house. Yes, it'll just be a staged, again, to look for clues and solve the crime is what their intentions are.
Is the property across the street, is that a residential use?
Across which street? St. Bernardine?
Yes.
Bear with me.
Straight, I believe it is.
Yeah, because there is sidewalk in front of that dwelling, and there is some sidewalk along Greenway Terrace. So they're all spots, it seems.
Yeah, it's spotty. It's like, maybe 1 or 2 homes on Greenway Terrace has it, and then the rest don't. But yes, I believe, unless, I don't know what the university owns across St. Bernardine Street. I know they own the corner lot for Alumni House.
David, would it be appropriate, or would this be a similar situation as the Scott Street subdivision where we would require the zoning variance?
Yes, and I do think we've addressed that in the zoning review letter, but I have not yet issued that. But it will be in there to note that yes, a sidewalk is required unless a variance would be granted for that. And I think that that's important to take into account how much existing sidewalk network you have. Going back to the comment about focusing on shuttle, if this were going to be, sort of a more frequent, like once a week use, I mean, I wouldn't certainly want to do anything that would discourage pedestrians from moving about, especially when the distance isn't that great. But at the same time, I understand the circumstances are a little bit unique here. So I can't really weigh in on how the board might, consider that request right now without maybe a little bit more information about the overall plan for transportation.
Okay. Thank you. Comment number 11 was stormwater management. I'll let Mr. Crawl weigh in, but at this point, nothing's proposed whatsoever. If we do get the variance, we're not even going to have sidewalk.
Yeah, it would be what's being proposed right now on the sketch plan. There would be no
Yeah.
regulated improvement for stormwater management,
Right.
so it would not apply.
Okay. Number 12 is a note that we would certainly add to any kind of plan that would need to be recorded, referencing hopefully an obtained zoning permit and any variances that were granted by the city zoning hearing board. One question I did have, I'm trying to figure out what comment number that was with regards to landscaping, lighting, and solid waste management.
I think you answered the question on lighting. Since it's not going
Yeah.
to be utilized at night, then the lighting's not required, so no lighting
Yeah.
plans necessary. So we can handle that by a note on the plan. Once you have better information,
Yep.
you specify that the projected hours of operation for the crime scene lab will be
Mhm.
between this time and this time. Therefore, no
Mhm.
lighting's required.
Okay.
Landscaping, I think that you do have a significant amount of landscaping. I would leave this up to the arborist to make the determination if additional street tree would be necessary. More than likely not. Seems to be
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to make sure those items are, I guess, taken care of. I certainly don't want to put site lighting on, especially when we've got actual residences in close proximity.
absolutely.
Those, I think, are your comments. So I appreciate us going through those. If there's anything in addition, it sounds like we will have, we'll need the denial of the zoning permit so that we can react appropriately with our variance requests and approach the zoning hearing board with an appeal.
Very good. Any other comments from the staff?
Dave, I don't know that it would make any difference, but for this area, it being a very low density, low residential density and low demand for on-street parking, I don't know if this would make any difference with the zoning or not, but Public Works would entertain a request for on-street bus stop loading and unloading at this location. I think Aristides could probably make a pretty good justified argument for that. And Public Works would be willing to entertain that argument. Again, I don't know if that would make any difference in your decision with zoning, but it was brought up earlier in the discussion, and I think that's something that discussion could continue at this address.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Dave. I don't think it would make a difference in the determination at staff level, but it would certainly be something that could be raised with the zoning variance and to the zoning hearing board, would be to, as we discussed, talk about how this would all interact. Would people be arriving via shuttle? Would they be mainly on foot? And if there's going to be if the Public Works Department said we would entertain that as a shuttle stop location, that obviously would be something that would be, looked upon favorably for the board if they're looking at that as part of the overall, like that's how they're offsetting the requirement for off-street parking.
Yeah, I don't want to train the zoning hearing board into thinking that's the way Public Works will address this from now on. This is a unique
Why not?
situation, and because we get a lot of daycares, and that's not the same thing as a school bus drop off or a shuttle. That's a whole different animal. And in here being low density, and that's the key. And you're talking about one shuttle. You're not talking about a whole bunch of parents dropping off their kids and picking them up.
And I think not to put words in your mouth, Tim, but frequency is probably a factor here as well.
And frequency, yeah,
This
sure.
would not be a daily
Yeah.
stop kind of situation.
I would not consider a high safety concern, especially considering the age of the students too. I think that's something that we could entertain if that comes up in a discussion with the zoning hearing board.
Mr. Chairman, this is Lee. Aristides, I would like to recommend that in your next presentation that you bring to the planning commission photographs of the existing building. I'm hearing a lot of discussion. I was born and raised in that neighborhood. This is a very small structure. And I really do not think that it warrants all of this microscopic attention on parking and bus stops and et cetera, et cetera. I just don't think that, it's an appropriate discussion, because once you see how small this building is, you'll recognize the fact that, and I think Aristides, you hit the nail on the head. The whole building is a forensic lab. It's really a tiny, small, property. So I think showing us a photograph and showing the rest of the commission, I think we would grasp it right away.
And thank you, Lee, but going back to my comment about what is this going to be used as, if there was just a small note somewhere on there that said this is like a mock crime scene, there's going to be no change in anything whatsoever because we want it to resemble a home, something to that nature. I think that would be very helpful and telling.
Oh, Bob. Yep, Bob, I agree 100%. You're absolutely right. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, this is Will. Just to clarify Commissioner Coghlan's excellent suggestion, and that is that none of the space on this property, interior or exterior, is proposed to be repurposed for instructional space per se. Not just in terms of that there are a few modifications being made, but it's not even going to be, in other words, a classroom. It's simply as is for the purposes of it being this crime scene lab.
Yeah, I think we can come up with a plan, maybe run it by either planning commission or Mr. Paris. Maybe we can see if the wording is appropriate so that we can place that on the plan and everybody concurs that addresses the concern and need for a plan.
And Commissioner Olson is correct, Mr. Chair. I'm familiar with this area.
Yeah, it's 1,400 square feet. It's not one of these tiny homes, but it's small.
And it is a low density traffic area. I mean, Upland has a lot of traffic, but not these side streets.
Yep.
Okay, very good. I did just want to mention that I'm not extremely familiar with this area, but in the past, when we did have full-blown plans in this area, we usually gave the sidewalk waiver, because most of the streets in this area that have saints' names, they don't have sidewalks. So would be
Religious exemption.
Yeah, it would be appreciated that they just take a double look at double check that, but just so the staff knows that's usually the way we've done it. That we've just given a waiver for this area for sidewalks, because there are so few of them.
If I may ask a question, since this is also the sidewalk requirement in this case applies both under the zoning ordinance and the SALDO, I think it might be beneficial for the applicant to at least have a sense from the planning commission that if the zoning hearing board granted the variance, would the planning commission be likely to be in favor of the waiver? I think if they knew that going into the request, it would probably be helpful for them.
Thank you.
Personally, I would approve, vote to approve the waiver, because it has been our policy since I've been on the commission for this small area of the city.
This is Bob. I think if we did the same that we've done in the past and saying if there is a citywide desire to put sidewalks throughout the entire area, that we would request that be done within 6 months of notice or something to that effect.
Right, Mr. Chairman, this is, well, I agree that we have not required it where the neighborhood has piecemeal sidewalks and curbing, but of course we are promoting under our comprehensive plan or the draft thereof or whatever is in effect now, the walkability of the city, so that in the future, if the city, as Commissioner Coughlin alluded, were to make it a policy to require it, we would certainly be favorable then, although that would not be something in our purview. But so we're not in other words prejudicing against such a policy is the point we're trying to make here. We probably would look favorably to that, but for now, we certainly would not burden the holder of a small parcel with having to install sidewalks and curbs when there's no connectivity to anything else in either direction.
Yeah, I think that's very, very well said. Well,
If I may, I'll just chime in here. Since I'm the ADA Transition Plan Coordinator for the city, right now, the federal government, under the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, doesn't require that the city install sidewalks where there are none. But if there are sidewalks, it requires that those sidewalks meet certain conditions. But that's not to say that sometime in the near future that could change. This is changing rapidly at the federal level, where they're issuing regulations to municipalities to meet federal requirements for accessibility. And they may someday look at this neighborhood and say, yeah, you need to provide connectivity. You need to provide walkability for disabled pedestrians. Again, it's not there now, but I think the idea, Mr. Conklin making that comment, that should be added to all of our plans where a waiver like this is being considered. I think that's an appropriate comment.
I'd like to add just one last thing. We may want to entertain revising this portion of the zoning ordinance to eliminate this requirement. And then this way it can just be in the saldo. Whereas then the planning commission can use better discretion and everything that you discussed just now, you could kick it around and then make the determination if it makes sense. I mean, at this level, it provides for a lot of informal input. When you get to the zoning hearing board, it's more formal.
A good suggestion.
But it's in both of them for now.
Right.
I'm just making a note about that. And that's something we might be able to follow up on once things perhaps slow down and we can look at doing some more zoning changes. I would not want to put more work on the staff. I mean, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8 plans today, which is it's the most we've had in a while. But it seems to be more and more common that 6 plans a meeting, and we haven't had that for 2 or 3 years. So,
Mr. Chairman, I do have a 5-page list of zoning ordinance amendments to discuss at some point, which does include that particular provision about sidewalk waivers. So we'll have a little conversation to discuss those, as you said, when things slow down a bit. Or maybe we'll start with 1 page a year.
Yeah.
So from the conversation, I'm gathering that Aristides and Alvernia is okay with providing the simple change to record plan, the 1-page I believe it's usually a one-page thing with some notes about.
Yeah,
the
this-
changes.
Yeah, I think this would certainly be one plan, similar to what was done for 401 Penn. Because we don't really have anything proposed. Certainly, we would have the existing conditions and all of the additional notes that sounds like we're going to need to place on the plan.
Yeah.
I think that's what we were looking at, a revised plan of record, single plan with all of the necessary and pertinent information, variance, dates, requests, grantings, the additional notes that Mr. Conklin was referring to, and additional notes in Mr. Skrunkowski's comment review.
Yeah, I think this would these minor change of use, one page things are very helpful for both the applicant and the city, because we go back on some of these things and hardly anyone can remember. I mean, I've been here 17 years, but I'm the only one who's been here that long. So, and I don't remember everything. And it seems like, for many years, people were relying too much on the institutional knowledge. And now since Ermeti has retired after 30 some years, it gets tough. So we do appreciate Alvernia helping us out with that. So I will not go ahead and entertain the request of the waiver from land development, since we do have an agreement to do what we did at 401.
Was that considered, did you want us to label it a minor land development, although it's actually a revised plan of record? Is that similar to what you're looking for?
Label it as revised plan of record.
So then do we entertain the waiver of land development?
From my understanding, this meets the requirement of land development.
My suggestion would be to have the waiver request at the same time that you submit the revised plan. That would allow for any zoning relief to be taken care of as well, which would, I'm assuming you were granted the relief from the parking, and we're not going to be adding anything that might take you out of the realm of a revised plan of record, then that would be something you would address at the same time when this comes back.
Okay.
Okay, great. So we'll sort of table this for the moment until we see what the zoning hearing board has to say. And I think we can take it from there if I'm understanding David and the rest of the staff correctly.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any other comments on this plan? Okay, hearing none. Once again, great pleasure to see you, Aristides. And I do have a quick question for you. What happened with the Albright plan?
Which one?
The one at across from the Wawa there on Rockland Avenue.
I believe that that is out of my realm. I believe legal is working on whatever needed to be done outside of what we were proposing and what we were involved with.
Okay.
We handled it very similarly.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So okay. No, I was just wondering because I saw them putting stuff over there the other day. And
yeah, I'm not sure their status. I actually have to check in with Mr. King. I was supposed to check in with him today, but I'll check in with him tomorrow. I'll say, hey, you might want to touch down and provide an update.
Yeah. yeah, that we would appreciate that, because that's another one where it would be just nice to have that one single page just listing the change of use, what the uses are,
Yep.
and the floor plan where the classrooms are versus the storage area.
Yep. Excellent. I thank you all for entertaining our project, and we'll be in touch and move forward with our zoning appeal and variance requests. Mr. Paris, as soon as you have that denial, we can react to it.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you, and
Thanks.
have a great evening.
You too, guys.
Yep.
And
Thanks,
ladies.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And now, poor Joan, who has been here since the beginning.
That's fine. I have plenty to do to keep myself entertained.
We are up to 10 South 2nd Street, the Rack Penn Street lot annexation.
Yes, I have with me Ken Deerstein from RAC, and Greg Boja is also here. We submitted a preliminary final annexation plan, and we received the Hawk Valley letter of September 23rd. I have also submitted the requested blanket easement for review of the language. Naomi, you received that today. Greg has prepared the legal description for that, and the legal description and the plan itself and plot of the blanket easement for the utilities and sidewalks will be attached to the easement, which would be recorded. I believe that many of the comments on the letter are technical comments which can be easily satisfied. The annexation plan was submitted. Tim had commented on the plan, and Greg had made the changes that were requested. There will be a note on the plan that the vacated portion of the Penn Street right-of-way would be annexed to RAC, and we would submit a deed. We've submitted the vacation ordinance and proposed petition and proposed quitclaim deed to the city. The ordinance is under consideration and has been advertised. I believe the city council meeting is October 4th, where that will be considered. Is that correct, David?
It's October 11th.
October 11th,
Yeah,
okay.
the posting was updated to reflect that correctly.
Okay, all right, so that has been advertised and is ready for consideration by city council. There will be a note on the plan of the annexation, and a deed would be prepared annexing, subject to the blanket easement for utilities and sidewalks to the city and to PennDOT. We have contacted PennDOT. PennDOT has by email indicated no objection because it is not the street right of way, and PennDOT would be included in the blanket easement for the utilities. There would also be a note on the plan that the site improvements are to be located, designed, permitted, constructed, and inspected in accordance with provisions of the City of Reading. Greg, do you have any additional comments? Would you like to share the screen and show the plan?
Sure. So what you see highlighted in red is the existing Burks Hall building. On top of that, you can see Penn Street, and then 2nd Street is to the right. The area in yellow is the existing 0.56 acres that we're discussing tonight for the annexation, and it would be to the red parcel where Burks Hall is located. And then on the right side of the screen for proposed conditions, that's where it shows how the property would be annexed. and also the area of the proposed blanket utility easement that Joan had sent over to Naomi earlier today. We are in receipt of the Hawk Valley comment letter. We've gone through the letter. Mainly as we looked at everything, it really looks like a will comply type letter. I did talk with Jerome a little earlier today, and comment 14 we felt was covered with a blanket easement. So I think we're in really good shape as a will comply for the letter that was provided. And if there's anything in particular, feel free to let us know.
Any comments from the staff on this one?
So just procedurally as a refresher, and Joan addressed this as well, but the Planning Commission has already issued a recommendation in favor of the annexation, subject to staff's review. That staff review is still in progress with these additional submissions that were just made, but City Council has already initiated the process, introduced the ordinance, advertised, and all of that, so that assuming the staff has completed its review by the October 11th regular meeting, it would be prepared to take action to approve the vacation. And then this annexation plan would then could be approved after the vacation has taken effect. So I'm not speaking to the technical issues, Tim will speak to those, but I just wanted to give you that procedural background that the recommendation of the Planning Commission portion is effectively already taken place.
Yeah. Also, just as to comment 8 regarding the zoning permit, that was submitted to the city at the same time as the proposed ordinance in late July, early August. So we've already started that process.
Thank you. Yes, and we do have the zoning permit submission.
Okay, great. See here. I'm getting a little lost here. Oh, Jerome, do you have any comments?
No, I think both Joan and Greg both covered everything that I had as far as comments. I think everything should be easily addressed. So there's nothing significant.
One question, Jerome, what would be the timeline for submission to the County Planning Commission?
I think that question will go to David and also Naomi.
If I can, Joan, we made the submission to the city at the same time we made this submission. And I believe Naomi, in conversations with Courtney from my office, had noted that she'd already sent it over to Berks County Planning Commission in early September.
Okay, so it is already there. I haven't seen a review letter or any kind of acknowledgement. All right, thank you.
Okay, we received a review letter. I can forward that to you all.
Okay, great.
That'd be terrific.
Yeah,
you're noted. Both Kozlov Stout and Bosch Engineering are noted in the distribution from the County Planning Commission, but it may be taking a while to wend its way. So we'll email you a copy in the meantime.
All right, great.
Yeah, that's great. Tim, I understand there were a few technical problems on the plan.
Well, yeah, we already went through that with Greg, and I assume Greg understood all that. That was several weeks ago. And I am seeing, it's difficult for me to see it here, but I think just to recap, I think what I understand is we now have a revised blanket easement that we just received today or yesterday or something. I think I saw something come through in an email. Is that right, Naomi? Yeah.
Yeah, what came through was the language for the blanket easement.
Okay.
And Greg had prepared the description, which will be attached along with a plan and plotting depicting the blanket easement area.
So we haven't seen this revised plan yet, but we will be seeing that. Do we know when we'll be receiving that?
I would assume you'll receive it 3 weeks before the next meeting. Sure.
Okay. Time-wise, Dave, how does that work out? Because the next meeting will be after the second time that the city council meets. How is that going to work?
Yeah, so the city council's meeting on the 11th to potentially take action on it can't happen before the 11th. It could happen after the 11th, to take action on the on the vacation only. That would, in order for them to take action, I think you would need to have received the plan in enough time for you to be able to give them a favorable recommendation. I don't believe that the planning commission would need to take any further action, but that would be your review as the engineer would need to have happened before city council votes on the vacation. So it's kind of a question of how long do you need it, or how soon do you need it before the 11th in order to complete that review?
Okay, say I complete the review and I'm satisfied, but the planning commission hasn't acted on it.
The planning commission's action would, and Jerome's, feel free to jump in if I'm saying anything wrong here, but the planning commission would still then need to act on the annexation plan separately, but that follows the city council action. So the next steps would be your review of the vacation proposal, council action on the vacation proposal, which they could do on or after the 11th of October. And then once the vacation has been finalized, then it would come back here to planning commission on the 26th of October for the annexation plan approval, assuming that council had granted the vacation in the meantime.
Has there been a first reading of this already? So would the 11th be actually the soonest, or would that be a first reading?
The introduction of the ordinance was on September
Okay.
13th, and it has a 28-day layover. So
All right, that's why there's a 28-day. Okay, so the earliest they could do it on the 11th. So Greg, I am on vacation that week. I am in next week. It's a busy week. So if we expect to have that done by next week, I would want to see it Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, do you want to do it over a Zoom meeting, or do you want to just email it to you?
You just email it to me. Let me look over it and go through it. And then if it looks like we need to do a Zoom, we'll do a Zoom.
Okay, and mainly you're just looking for these plan comments to be completed. Is there anything else that you're going to need?
Well, yeah, I mean, like we've gone over before, we're going to want to see what I can see right now, and it's pretty small. It looks like generally it looks pretty good. The one on the proposed conditions, it will be sealed by a PLS.
Okay.
I assume. Yeah,
Sure.
that we would need to see. And then, of course, the meets and bounds and proposed monuments, et cetera, that we talked about. Okay. Yeah, that's what I need. And we can make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Are there any comments from the commissioners? Hearing none. Is there anything else that you would need from us, Joan?
I don't believe that there's anything else that we need. I think we just needed to make sure that we're on the right track with the review letter. I mean, is it possible that this preliminary / final plan can be approved subject to meeting the conditions in the Hawk Valley letter?
I'm sure by next month that would be all taken care of. One of the things that does need to be on the plan, however, is the vacation ordinance as a note.
Right.
So, you know, those are things that can be worked on before the next planning commission meeting.
All right. Yes, and we'll be in front of city council at this next meeting.
Yeah, and I don't want to be stepping on city council's toes either. You know, David has a lot more of an idea of what the protocol is here. Since you know, we finally have an administration that actually works together to put things in the right order. So
Mr. Chairman, this is Will.
Hi, Will.
Hi. So there's no discussion on tabling the motion. I see that's on the agenda. So if we do table this, I just want to make it clear for the record that whenever we table something, it's without prejudice. We're not signaling the city council any lack of support for this project. We are simply respecting their discretion in terms of considering the vacation first.
Yes, absolutely. Are there any other comments?
Ken, do you have any comments?
This is the first time I've been through this, so I just want to, I guess I'll talk to you later, Joan, about the next steps in the process after the vacation and when we can get started on the plan that
All right.
we've had in front of us for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think most of it's going to be, it looks to me like most of it's going to be notes, really.
Right, most of the, and that's why I was asking for the preliminary / final plan approval tonight, because many of these are technical. So the reason I was asking for a conditional approval is because many of these notes are technical in nature. And it would be contingent upon satisfying the vacation ordinance being adopted.
Yes, and that's why we're waiting. The planning commission always waits for the ordinance by city council first.
All right.
The city council was very much, as you guys know, very much in favor of this. I guess the only thing I would point out, and it is not your issue, it is my issue, is it's RAC's 50th anniversary. When I started this process 20 months ago, I'd hoped to get the corner constructed by the 50th, which is in November. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but I do hope that it is at least shovels in the ground by the end of the calendar year. So thank you very much for whatever you guys or you folks can do to help make that happen.
Yeah, like I said, it appears to me that once city council does their thing and the notes are on next month, we can pretty well wrap this up and give our usual conditional approval, which means that it just has to go through a staff review and make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So with that, do I hear a motion to table this plan?
Lee Olson motions to table the plan.
Okay, thank you, Lee.
Second.
Is that Will who's second?
Yeah.
Thank you, Will. Okay, all those in favor of tabling the plan, say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Okay, very good. Thanks again, Ken and Joan, and for presenting this, and I'm sure we'll get the scheduling worked out and have this ready for next month.
Okay, well, we'll see you next month then.
Okay.
Have a good night.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Now, we are finally up to other business. First, under other business, we have 4 properties that the redevelopment authority would like us to take a look at for reuse recommendations. And I'm not sure if David will take over or Naomi will take over on this one.
I can put these up on screen. That is, if you can hear. Yeah, okay, I was just checking to see and make sure I wasn't muted. So the 4 properties are 122 South 8th Street, and I'll flip through them briefly and then go back. 124 South 8th Street, 245 South 5th Street, and 549 South 6th Street. I did a little bit of zoning research on these properties just for background, but I just wanted, before I go through them, the one thing that I wanted to share is that this is similar to what was requested last month as far as a reuse recommendation. This is a step that the redevelopment authority is requesting so that they would have the option, if they choose to proceed with it, of taking these properties through eminent domain. The Planning Commission does not need to get into the specific future use of the properties. They still would be required to comply with all of the zoning ordinance requirements. And the Planning Commission's recommendation for reuse of these properties could be as simple as recommending them for residential use consistent with the zoning ordinance. In last month, we specifically were addressing one family dwelling. These properties, as you'll see, have a little bit more of a complicated history with multiple multifamily use that may or may not be supported as a non-conforming use. So one suggestion that I am making it with respect to this reuse recommendation would be to keep it more general, to say the recommended reuse is residential in conformance with the zoning ordinance, and allow for any variances that might need to happen in the future. Those will still have to happen by either the authority or the future owner of the property. With that, just briefly, the history of this, I'm sorry, trying to go back to the first one. Of the first property on the list is 122 South 8th Street. There is a zoning permit on file for 5 units of this property. It was last inspected in 2016. And it is located in a residential district, the R3 district. For the most part, multi-unit is an allowed use, but it's usually non-conforming with respect to floor area, parking, and we have not done a detailed analysis of this to determine to what extent it is non-conforming, but they're almost always non-conforming, at least with respect to off-street parking. So that's about it on this one that I have to share. It did go through the Blighted Property Review Committee in 2015 as certified blighted. All of these, of course, are certified blighted properties. 124 South 8th Street is also in the residential R3 district. It also has a history of zoning approval for 5 dwelling units. Again, it went through an inspection in 2016, and it again is a certified blighted property. 245 South 5th Street is a little bit more complicated in its history. The last zoning approval that I could find in my research was from 2004, excuse me, for a daycare on the lower levels. However, there's some references in the zoning history for an upper floor apartment. And according to the tenant, and I don't have a lot of detail on this, they've apparently been renting rooms in this, which is something we're looking into, whether or not that's currently in operation. I believe it's currently vacant, but there has been some history of that, but it would not have been through a zoning approval. So this property, I would also note, is in the Callow Hill Historic District. And as you can see, there's a lot of issues with the building, as is the case with all of these, and it's also a certified blighted property. And last on the list is 549 South 6th Street. This is in the R3 district as well. It's in the Prince Historic District, and the only zoning history for this property is actually for single family. The one comment that I would make about, kind of going back to my thought about using some broad language about residential reuse, is that from an investor's perspective, the flexibility to potentially take a 5-unit and maybe downgrading it to 2 units, or in some cases a single family will be appropriate. I believe is maybe best left to going through that zoning process and keeping the Planning Commission's recommendations broader. However, it's your decision to make as far as the actual reuse recommendation, and we will be happy to forward that, whatever that recommendation is, onto the redevelopment authority.
Okay. Are there any comments from the commissioners? Okay. Well, hearing none, I guess best way to do this is to do these properties one by one. So do I hear a motion to for recommended reuse of 122 South 8th Street as a residential use in conformance with the zoning ordinance?
Lee Olson will make that motion.
Okay, and do I hear a second?
Bob Conklin, second.
Okay, thank you, Don. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Okay, all right, there's the first one. Okay, do I hear a motion for reuse recommendation for 124 South 8th Street as a residential use in conformance with the zoning ordinance?
Bob Conklin, I'll make that recommendation.
Okay, all right.
Motion.
Okay, and did I hear a second?
Lee Olson will second.
And Lee will second. Very good. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? Very good. Okay. And do I hear a motion for reuse recommendation for 245 South 5th Street as a residential use in conformance with the zoning ordinance?
Lee Olson will make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Will seconds. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? And then finally, for this one, I don't know if the commissioners would like to specify this as a single family dwelling or continue with the broader language that David recommended.
This is Will with a question. Do we know how many rooms and bathrooms it has?
And I don't have a floor plan to provide to you. I mean, I can see it just from the exterior photos is looking
But
like a lot smaller
I
than
can't
the
see that, yeah. But I know, you know, the area generally. We could specify, Mr. Chairman, you know, with a preference for a single family without a requirement.
Oh, I think that that sounds good. So do I hear a motion for reuse recommendation for 549 South 6th Street as a residential use in conformance with the zoning ordinance with a preference towards reuse as a single family dwelling?
I will make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Will. Second?
Lee Olson will second.
Okay, Lee second. Okay, discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, great. We have that one down. Next, we need to formalize the redistricting commission nominations. As everyone might remember, I volunteered and Lee has graciously agreed to join me on the redistricting commission. Do we need to take a vote on this, or do I just need to sign it?
I believe a motion and resolution that you vote on would be ideal here. And we could just share that with the city clerk.
Okay, great.
I move to nominate Wade Beeler and Lee Olson to the redistricting commission.
Okay,
Bob Conklin will second.
very good. Okay. Well, okay, any discussion?
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Any, let me see here. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Very good. And then, I do have a copy of the resolution, so I will sign that and get that to Naomi tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we are up to time extension requests. The first one is for Iglesia Pentecostal Movimiento de Fe. The preliminary plan that they're asking for a extension until December 28th of 2021. I believe this is the church that used to be the Chinese restaurant on Schuylkill Avenue.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion to accept the request for time extension?
Lee Olson and I make that motion to accept.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, second from Will. Okay. All those in favor of the extension, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Okay. Very good. And the second one we have is for the refuge home plan for, escapes me, 600 or 700 block of McKnight Street, if I remember correctly. They would like an extension until October 26th of 2021, which is our next meeting. Do I hear a motion?
Lee Olson will move.
Okay, Lee, in a second.
I'll second. Bob Conklin.
Bob, very good. Ed,
Mr. Chairman, when we grant time extensions, we usually give up to 90 days. So, I mean, I don't know if we have to specify only the next month. If they're ready next month, fine, but we could leave it as our standard up to 90 days.
I believe this is their written request.
Right, yes, I understand, but what I'm saying is we don't have to be specific like that. It's up to us if we want to or not.
Your MPC requirement is to take action within the time period, and so it's really the applicant's role to request it up to a certain time. So you could it's true, you could extend it for longer, but only if the applicant requested it for longer first. We have to let them request it and then grant it. So if they wanted longer time, they can come back for longer.
Okay.
very good. Okay, any other discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor of the extension, say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Okay, very good. Next, we have acceptance of the August 24th, 2021 meeting minutes. I had 3 minor corrections, which Naomi has already taken care of. Does any of the commissioners have anything else?
Mr. Chair, this is, well, I didn't see this until this afternoon. I didn't get anything almost until this afternoon. It was some oversight, so I did not have time to review this. I focused on reviewing the plans.
Okay. Yeah, I went over them pretty thoroughly during lunch today. So the biggest change was that there was a reference to the restaurant and it should actually be the laundromat. And I think that's just a slip up because, you know, the church used to be a restaurant. So probably in all that discussion, something got crossed, but that has been corrected. And the other two things were minor grammatical things. Dash was missing, and use of not versus no. So with that, do I hear a motion to accept the August 24th meeting minutes as corrected?
Lee Olson makes that motion.
Okay, Lee, and a second?
Second, Bob Conklin.
Okay, thank you, Bob. All right. All those in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye.
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 Okay, opposed?
And I'll review them more thoroughly in the meantime.
Okay, yeah, anything, just, if it does turn out to be something huge that I missed, we can, we can follow up at the next meeting. Announcements.
Yeah, Wayne, this is Lee. As you and I chatted, I really would like to make it publicly known that I would like to be relieved of my appointment to the city's Blighted Property Review Committee. In anticipation of that, I accepted the Redistricting Commission nomination. I think I would like to see another member of our commission do their tour of duty at Blighted Property, which meets, I think, 4 times a year.
Yeah. Actually, I'm the new.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I've taken that over. The next meeting is in October.
Okay, good. Well, thank you, sir.
And I will
Thank
be
you.
attending that. So I am in touch with Linda about that.
Good.
And she has updated it. It turns out that Hemington is well, you probably know Hemington is chair, so it's kind of exciting.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you so much. Good for you. Yeah, I think it's appropriate you be there.
Yes.
Yeah, because Will did it after I, so it's time for me to rotate into the position.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Let me see your blighted review. We did the redistricting. The only comment I have is that I did attend another webinar with the EPA this month, and it was about faith-based solutions. What was it? Faith-based solutions to property management or something. And basically what it was a review of the 30-year history of a section of Chicago where a church basically took this section of Chicago under their wing, and they redeveloped it. And they've done such a good job that it turns out that the Barack Obama Presidential Library is going to be built in this neighborhood.
The groundbreaking was today.
Oh, I totally missed that. So that's going to be very exciting for them. I know the presenters were very much looking forward to that. And that's all I have. On our list, we do have our pending and future cases. If Naomi could just let us know what the Overlord Real Estate Holdings is.
Yeah, that was the project on 9th Street, the adaptive reuse, I think it was 9 apartments.
Right. Oh, okay. Okay, great. Okay, that gives me a clue there. And medical arts building, okay, yeah, very good. Does staff or commissioners have anything else for the good of the order?
I just want to thank Naomi for sending me an electronic full copy of the most recent, I guess, in progress plan by Stantec of the Downtown Plus master planning. I have started to go through it, and I was unable to attend the virtual review that was held by Stantec under the auspices of the Berks Alliance. So I just wanted to know if anyone else, because Naomi had sent it out to our fellow commission members. It's quite a tome.
No, I haven't actually had an opportunity to attend or look that over yet.
Yeah, it's the recording is available on YouTube, and I have a PDF that they've sent out, so I can forward that to you all.
Okay, great.
There was a glitch, this as well, on the, for signing with the DocuSign, the plans for the Reading Soda Works. Every time I've tried to sign it, there's an error message.
Okay, I'll have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure we've received it with your signature.
No, I didn't even do it. Okay, maybe that was the error. It came to me and it was already signed. I thought I had signed it before, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we got the completed document, so.
Okay.
Great. Well, very good. Once again, thanks to everyone for sticking this out. Hopefully I didn't rush too much, but I did want to try to keep this under 3 hours today. So thank you again to everyone. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Lee Olson will motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Will seconds. Very good. We are out of order.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
Thank you,
Good night.
everyone.